sky! Look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's Superman!
So it's no secret that silver screenings of superheroes aren't the big event they used to be, and the MCU isn't what it once was. The DCU was one long train wreck that has finally been put out of its misery. Well, mostly.
I'm back!
So with the big two struggling to remain relevant on the big screen over the past couple years, it's no surprise that people by and large are writing off the superhero genre, saying it's going the way of the Western. Now, the question is, will the superhero genre ride off into the sunset like the cinematic trends of the past, or does it still got some fight left in it?
I could do this all day.
There are two films that I think will be a good indicator of whether the genre needs to be put on ice for a while, or if it's still capable of reigniting passion amongst fans and general audiences alike. The two films are Superman and The Fantastic Four: First Steps, releasing on July 11th and July 25th respectively.
This summer.
The reason I've selected these two films to use as barometers of fan-base enthusiasm is because not only are these films spearheading bold new directions for both franchises' cinematic universes, but are also films centered on the most quintessential comic book superheroes from each respective universe. Superman is the superhero, as not only is he the most recognizable superhero, he's also largely considered to be the OG as well. The Fantastic Four has also made significant contributions to the comic book world as well, as not only were they Marvel's first true superhero team, but Marvel's first family, and was also responsible for driving Marvel to focus on telling character-driven stories to demonstrate the realistic and relatable qualities of their heroes.
You don't turn your back on family. Even when they do.
In this video, I'll be going over 4 scenarios for each film and how that will likely impact the studio's plans moving forward. Starting with Superman, as it's coming out sooner, and its box office performance and audience reception will likely have a more immediate influence on the future of its respective universe. As highlighted in the previous sentence, the metrics I'll be focusing on for these hypotheticals are box office performance and audience reception, as I don't particularly care for critical reception as a metric for this genre, nor do I think it will influence the future of these cinematic universes nearly as much as the other two metrics mentioned. Alright, Soups, you're up first.
You have to eat them with a spoon. What am I doing in Africa?
If Superman does well at the box office and is received well by general audiences, then James Gunn's new DC Cinematic Universe is in good shape to take off, as it hit the ground running. If the film flops and is panned by general public, then James Gunn's DCU is probably dead on arrival, as Superman is their second biggest toy to play with in the DC sandbox. If they can't get that to work, then there's realistically not much viability for a non-Batman-centric cinematic universe. And at this point, I don't even know if a new Batman film will be a guaranteed success, though it certainly has the most risk aversion of all the DC properties. What about the other two scenarios? What if the movie's a hit but is panned, or alternatively is a flop but is beloved by those who saw it? Well, if it does well at the box office but performs poorly in the court of public opinion, then I believe Warner Brothers is going to be in a tough spot and is unlikely going to be able to weather the storm of criticism and be able to salvage the sinking ship that is their stillborn universe. If the Superman film is well received but flops or even breaks even, Warner Brothers will probably be unlikely to invest further into what they see as another failed prospect, and it'll be up to the B-tier characters that are already greenlit for their films to rescue the fledgling DCU, which realistically would not occur if even Soups himself can't draw in a crowd. For the DCU to have a chance, I think Superman needs to be a crowd-pleasing runaway success story.
They love me.
The Fantastic Four: First Steps, while not as integral to the future of the franchise as Superman, it is still very vital to the future fate of the MCU.
Giving us a third option. It has been an extraordinary life, but always with one foot in the future. Carter, for the first time in 100 years, when I look ahead, I see nothing.
If the Fantastic Four were to do well at the box office and be received well by audiences, it would be a shot of adrenaline into the staggering franchise right before their big Avengers film coming out next year. It would also take a lot of stress off of Kevin Feige, as the MCU could really use a win right now, as it's in a relatively dire state. The films have been boom or bust over the past few years, which is a stark change from the MCU as it's used to regularly and reliably put out hits. If the film were to flop and be panned by moviegoers, then it would possibly spell doom for Doomsday. An unlikely prospect, but not an entirely unrealistic one. An Avengers movie flopping would have been a virtual impossibility a few years back, but now the notion doesn't seem entirely preposterous. However, the concerns Disney would have if Fantastic Four fails is not how it will affect Doomsday, most likely, but how it would affect the future of the MCU. How do you sustain a franchise that only succeeds on Avengers films and mega crossovers like No Way Home and Deadpool 3? The answer is, you can't. It would be an unsustainable model, as these types of films will start to see diminishing returns pretty rapidly as the specialness of Avengers films and the gimmick of crossovers start to fade, which would leave them with only one option left. Hit the reboot button.
The time for talking is over. It's time to push buttons.
Something that we will actually likely be seeing sooner rather than later, at least in some capacity, as Avengers Secret Wars will probably reboot the MCU to some extent. How much, though, likely depends on Fantastic Four, funnily enough, because if the film does well, it will probably reassure Marvel Studios that there is still potential in the MCU as is, and only a soft reboot or some light restructuring will be necessary. However, if the Fantastic Four flops, they will be much more likely to hit the reset button, as they'll assume there is more profits to be had in redoing the characters that built the franchise in the first place.
It's impossible.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps!
Now, I've been going over the extreme outcomes, both good and bad, but what if it's just a financial success and has a poor reception, or it's received well but loses money? Well, we just had the latter in Thunderbolts, so if the movie does the same, then Disney will probably lose faith in the future of these characters and be more inclined to pull the plug and start over. If the former happens and the film makes a lot of money but people hate it, then they'll likely conclude that the F4 brand is strong, but this iteration of Fantastic Four is to be blamed, and they'll try again in the near future with them headlining the first phase of the rebooted MCU.
Got it! Supernova! Bad!
So in conclusion, for this era of comic book universe cinema domination to not come to an end, I think at least one or two blockbuster July superhero films need to be a smashing success. DC and Marvel are both entering a new chapter, as DC is starting over and Marvel is either going to Phase 7, which will most likely be radically different from what came before in either the Infinity Saga or Multiverse Saga, or a reboot with the Fantastic Four, possibly being the new core team rather than the Avengers or X-Men. Whatever the future holds for superheroes on the big screens, we will find out soon enough. Enough said.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Say that again?
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Guys, I got it. Ready?
Yeah.